Every time you hit the gas, your car's holding back. Factory limits, hidden software, and dealer tricks quietly robbing performance and fuel economy. After 40 years in the garage, I've uncovered 15 forbidden methods to unlock your car's full potential. More power, smoother rides, and better mileage. And the final trick? It costs $0 and takes just 3 minutes. I've used it on my own daily driver, and now it's sitting at 570 miles, still purring like new. Let's dive in. Number 15. The throttle body reset trick. Your gas pedal isn't slow because your engine's weak. It's slow because your electronic throttle has learned bad habits over time, and your ECU simply accepts them as truth. Modern cars constantly adjust throttle behavior based on how you drive. If you've spent months doing gentle starts or heavy traffic crawling, the system begins to assume you always want soft, lazy acceleration. Manufacturers never mention this, and dealerships routinely charge $120 to $150 to recalibrate something that takes less than a minute. And here's where our trick comes to play. Turn the key to the on position without starting the engine. Press the gas pedal all the way down and hold it for 10 seconds. Then turn the key off, release the pedal, wait another 10 seconds, and start the car normally. Those few steps wipe the throttle's learned data and force the ECU to relearn fresh behavior immediately. It's impressive how quickly a small recalibration wakes things up, yet something deeper in the system still refuses to flow freely. Number 14. Intake cleaning. Every engine has a moment where it stops feeling eager. You press the gas and instead of jumping, it hesitates, like it's thinking about it. That hesitation usually isn't the engine getting old. It's carbon quietly building a wall inside your intake system. Dealerships love this problem because it looks mysterious and expensive. They'll quote you $300 or more to restore airflow, when the truth is far less dramatic. So what do? Warm the engine and hold the RPM at a steady hum. Then introduce CRC cleaner or seafoam through the intake in short bursts. The engine may stumble, it may cough, and it may send a cloud out the back so thick your neighbors think you're fogging for mosquitoes. That chaos is the carbon burning off. When it clears, the engine behaves differently. The throttle stops arguing with you, and fuel economy ticks upward, sometimes by 2, 3, and even 4 miles per gallon. Manufacturers warn against doing this yourself, not because it doesn't work, but because they'd rather bill you for the same procedure with a fancy name. Once the throat clears, you'll feel the eagerness return. Though another part of the drivetrain has been quietly soaking in its own history. Number 13. The transmission partial flush hack. Lifetime fluid is one of the greatest marketing tricks in the car world. What they don't say out loud is that the lifetime they're talking about ends the moment your warranty does. After that, the sludge starts piling up. Modern transmissions are sealed tight, which sounds high-tech until you realize that the fluid inside is slowly cooking itself into varnish. Dealers tell you not to flush it because a full flush can shock an aging transmission into failure, and they're right. That's why the real fix is the one they never mention. A partial flush. Every 10,000 to 15,000 miles, drain a third of the fluid and refill it. Do it 3 times, and you've quietly replaced almost the entire system without stressing anything. It costs about $40 each time and routinely saves $3,000 rebuilds. With gear shifting cleaner, it's the spark's turn to tell you what it's been holding back. Number 12. Spark plug gap adjustment. The phrase pre-gapped is one of the most misleading things in car maintenance. In 20 years, I've almost never opened a new plug that was actually set to the right measurement. Even being off by a tiny 0.02 inches is enough to dull the burn, soften acceleration, and make the engine feel unsure of itself. Closing that gap slightly, just that tiny adjustment, sharpens the spark under load. Suddenly, the throttle feels crisp. The idle stops wandering, and most drivers pick up a little extra mileage without changing anything else. Technicians rarely mention this because altering plug gaps technically shifts emissions behavior. On paper, it complicates things. On the road, it just makes the engine feel right. Number 11. Oxygen sensor shortcut. Carbon coats the tip of your oxygen sensors. The readings lag behind, and suddenly your fuel trims drift so far off that the engine starts running rich. Most dealerships won't even bother checking. They'll jump straight to a replacement and hand you a bill for around $300. The truth is, these sensors can often be brought back to life with nothing more than time and a solvent. Pull the sensor out, let the tip soak overnight in gasoline or a sensor-safe cleaner, and reinstall it the next morning. It's simple, quiet, and effective. Even though manufacturers want you to think a new part is the only solution. A clean sensor reacts faster, corrects fuel mixtures more accurately, and usually bumps up your mileage almost immediately. Moving on, the brain of the operation needs a clearer signal too. Number 10. MAF sensor cleaning. Dealerships love blaming a dirty MAF sensor for poor mileage, and their solution? Swap it out for a new one and charge you close to $200. The truth is, most failing MAF sensors aren't failing at all. They're just coated in microdust that throws off the readings. When that sensor starts reporting less airflow than the engine is actually getting, the ECU dumps in extra fuel to compensate, and suddenly, your MPG falls off a cliff. The fix is ridiculously cheap. Pull the sensor out, give the delicate wire inside a gentle blast of MAF-specific cleaner, and let it dry for 10 minutes. That alone restores accuracy, and whatever you do, never reach for brake cleaner. That stuff will eat the sensor alive. Airflow makes sense again, though the coils delivering that charge may have another opinion on what enough means. Number 9. Coil pack swap. Most drivers assume their ignition coils are giving them all the spark the engine can handle. What they don't know is that many coils across brands share the same mounts, connectors, and dimensions, but they deliver completely different output levels. Some aftermarket or higher trim coils fire 10 to 15% stronger than the originals, and your engine feels that difference instantly. A common example is the Nissan Infiniti swap, where a stronger coil from a performance model fits perfectly onto a standard engine. The upgrade takes minutes, costs around $60 from a salvage yard, and produces a sharper, cleaner burn than a brand new $300 OEM coil ever would. Don't fold yet. Time to make the controller remember how strength is supposed to feel. Number 8. ECU relearn cycle. When the ECU boots back up, it starts relearning on the fly, while you're opening the door, turning the AC on, pressing the pedal, or sitting in traffic. All those interruptions confuse the relearn process, and the engine ends up running slightly out of sync. Dealerships call this a reprogram and charge around $150 for it, even though the fix is painfully simple. Here's how to do it right. Turn the key to on without starting the engine and wait 10 seconds. Then start the car and leave it completely alone. Let it idle on its own for 15 minutes straight. That uninterrupted period lets the ECU rebuild fuel trims, throttle position data, and idle control from a stable baseline. When it finishes, the difference is obvious. The throttle feels more precise, the idle steadies itself, and even the automatic shifting tends to smooth out. Number 7. Timing advance hack. Engines don't roll out of the factory at their strongest. They roll out detuned, deliberately softened so they can run on cheap gas and still pass emissions tests in every state. That means the ignition timing is set safely behind where the engine actually performs best. On older cars, bumping the distributor forward a couple of degrees wakes the engine right up. On newer cars, run a few tanks of 91 plus octane, reset the ECU, and it'll advance timing automatically once it senses the cleaner burn. The payoff is immediate. Quicker throttle, stronger low-end pull, and even better fuel economy. Now here's where things get interesting. The next restriction isn't in the timing at all. It's buried in your exhaust. Number 6. Catalytic converter cleaning hack. A clogged catalytic converter feels like the engine is dragging a parachute. Replacing it can cost over $1,200, and most drivers assume that's their only option. What they don't know is that many failing cats are just coated in carbon and ash. Pour half a can of lacquer thinner into a half tank of fuel and take the car on a steady highway run for about half an hour. As the exhaust heats up, the solvent burns through the buildup inside the converter. The flow opens back up, power returns, and I've even seen stubborn check engine lights vanish mid-drive. Mechanics use this trick quietly because it works and because it saves people from massive bills. But the story doesn't start in the exhaust. The real mess often begins inside the crankcase itself. Number 5. PCV inline filter hack. Oil vapor sneaking through the PCV system is one of the quietest ways an engine builds heavy carbon. Every puff of that vapor ends up on your intake valves, creating knock, hesitation, and eventually a repair bill big enough to hurt. The fix costs less than a cup of coffee. Slip a tiny inline fuel filter into the PCV hose and it instantly acts like a miniature catch can, trapping the oily mist before it ever reaches the intake. Valves stay cleaner, idle stays smoother, and you skip the overpriced dealer catch can kits that do the same job. It's simple, cheap, and surprisingly effective. Contamination slows, yet throttle communication still waits to be unshackled. Number 4. Throttle response booster hack. Modern cars hesitate on purpose. Manufacturers build delay into the pedal so the throttle opens slowly, keeping emissions low and the ride comfortable. And the result? A car that feels like it's thinking before it moves. You can erase that lag in under a minute. Right after the ECU relearn, disconnect the battery again. Press the gas pedal to the floor 10 times in a row, reconnect the battery, and start the engine. That sequence forces the ECU to remap the pedal signal instantly. The difference is obvious the moment you touch the gas. The hesitation disappears, the car feels lighter, and the throttle finally reacts in real time. Ready for the next layer? Because none of that matters if your fuel system can't keep pace with the engine's new urgency. Number 3. Injector pulse trick. Fuel injectors don't fail overnight. They slowly get coated in varnish until the spray pattern turns from a fine mist into a lazy droplet. That tiny change creates hesitation, rough cold starts, and even light knocks under load. Shops charge around $300 for a professional injector service, but their secret tool isn't magic, it's just direct exposure. So here's the DIY version that you can do at home. Disconnect the fuel line, feed the engine straight injector cleaner, let it run for about 5 minutes, shut it off, and let the chemicals soak. When you restart, it'll stumble, cough, and then clear its throat like a brand new engine. This is the exact same method used by pro cleaning rigs, just without the markup. Cold starts become crisp, the revs smooth out, and the engine responds like it finally remembered how to breathe. It's technically illegal because the engine is running on a non-fuel mixture, but if you do it correctly, it's one of the most effective restorations you can perform. Number 2. The oil additive that breaks all the rules. Manufacturers will never admit this, but modern oil isn't built for long-term protection. It's built to meet certification paperwork. As engines age and oil thins, the internal friction skyrockets, and that's when timing chains start rattling, bearings start complaining, and the engine slowly grinds itself towards failure. The workaround they don't want you touching is a high moly or ZDDP additive. These friction modifiers lay down a microscopic film on moving metal surfaces, giving the engine a layer of protection modern oil alone just can't match. Temperatures drop, idle noise fades, wear slows dramatically. One Corolla owner I worked with saw his cold idle rattle disappear, and it stayed quiet for another 40,000 miles. Protection returns. Now the lungs of the intake can breathe without apology. Number 1. Airbox secret breather holes. Most people think their engine is starving because of old parts or bad fuel. In reality, the airbox itself is often the culprit. It's designed to silence the intake noise, not to feed the engine efficiently, and those built-in restrictions limit how much cool air actually reaches the combustion chamber. Here, the workaround is surprisingly simple. On the cold side of the airbox, the side that brings in outside air before the filter, drill 2 or 3 discrete holes. They don't need to be big. Even small openings let in more oxygen-rich air. Your engine was never tired, just silenced by limits you didn't know existed. You've unlocked what dealerships keep quiet. Now, see it unleashed on the road, plus the maintenance they'll never mention next.